Hi everyone, Kathy Beltran with Sacred Dance with Trance. I'm super excited to have international medium, AFC SNU tutor, blogger and teacher, Penny Hayward with us today. It all came together so quickly and I'm so grateful to you, Penny. Everybody, Penny Hayward.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's exciting and daunting and scary, but it's wonderful.
Oh, we'll make it so fun here. Okay, so one of the things I want to talk about first is how members and the audience can connect with Penny, and then we'll do it again at the end of the interview so that, and then again, when I release the interview, all the links will be at the bottom because I get a lot of messaging afterwards. You know, how do I connect with Penny? And I'm like, just look at the bottom of the interview. All the links are there. Anyways, so you can find Penny right now. She's updating her website. It would be pennyhayward.co.uk. You can also find her blog post there, but as well as her Facebook business page or profile page, Penny Hayward Medium. She has some great blogs there as well. And definitely some courses that you are going to be connected with, Penny. And so let us quickly talk about some of the courses that you're going to be connected with.
Okay, yeah. So I do run some of my own courses in the UK, which is where I'm based. And if anyone's really good with their accents, I'm originally from Australia, so but I live here in the UK. So any courses that I run, I tend to put on the Facebook page, and sooner or later I'll get them up on my website. I'm teaching at the college, and I think you had Martin Kolkoff on recently, and he's running a couple of courses to do with trance and physical and experimental mediumship, which I've been invited to teach on. So providing we've got enough students, then, you know, we'll all be there collaborating together. And so those links will be sent at the end of this session, I believe, so people can check out those courses. And of course, you can go onto the college website, the AFC website, and you can look up my name and then see what courses I booked on at the college. And then I am also booked, quite excitingly, to work in Australia later this year. Again, it's not something that I run, it's just something that I've been invited on. And so there'll be a link to that as well. It's run by States of Grace. So yeah, so I do my own things, but then I do things at the college and some other places as well. So it's quite exciting year ahead.
It definitely is. And you know what, one of the other things you told me this morning was that I didn't know anything that you were doing anything with Martin. And I just met you a couple of days ago, so that was wonderful. So one other question really quick. Do you do anything right now online? A lot of members do ask me that.
Right, so I don't do anything online with Trance, and but at the moment I do have like one-to-one mentoring sessions that I offer to people, because I really like that one-to-one contact. And really working with someone and seeing them grow, working on what aspect it is that they need to work on. So when I do my one-to-one, when people book those one-to-one mentorships, I'll sense into their energy, into their spirit team, and help guide them from there. So it's unique. It's not like I have a structure and I follow it just for every single person. It's unique to each person. So that's what I do online at the moment. And then the SNU, as you mentioned, I do some SNU teaching. So the SNU obviously has their SNUI, which is for international students, and there's lots of different courses. It's not just Trance, but I know you focus on that. And so I do some teaching on there, but it's more to do with people wanting to get their mediumship accreditation and going along that journey. So I'm online, but not specifically with Trance at the moment.
Well, that's so great, because people do ask me, you know, does she mentor? Does she do anything? So I always have to ask them online too, because most people, a lot of people can't travel. So
yeah, and with some of the mentorships that I've done on these one-to-ones, people have wanted help with this, what I call speaking mediumship. So you probably know in the UK we have services and we have the addresses, which is philosophy, and then the evidential part of the which is the mediumship aspect as well. But what I've found through my development over the years, that the speaking aspect and doing the address or the philosophy in a service is mediumship. But I never really was taught like that. And it's not really something that I found anybody teaching. So it's something that the spirit world taught me, which I now teach other people. And it'll kind of flow into other things we're going to talk about today. But my trance, I think, helped me to get to that point of working with what I call speaking mediumship and entrancement in speaking mediumship.
I can't wait to talk about that, because I know that you're incredibly passionate about it.
Yeah.
So let's start at the very beginning. Everybody loves to hear how you got into mediumship, how it all started, and then we'll get to what led you to the trance. So, and people go back to when they're younger, and so many people can connect to it. So go ahead.
Okay, well, how do you make a long story short? So I guess everybody's got long stories and stories to tell. For me, I think I don't have that typical story of, oh, I spoke to the spirit world when I was really young. I just knew stuff when I was young and I thought it was normal. And I kind of tended, if I think back and reflect as an adult to when I was a child, I think I was quite philosophical in my thoughts as a child, and I was always speaking to someone, but I couldn't have told you who. I just knew I was speaking out into the universe, shall we say. And I think because I was searching for questions, wanting to know what life is about, how do I fit in, and I think of a lot of us go through that, like there has to be more to life than this, you know. And I had a voice, basically, cutting this long story short, say I had to move to England. And the weird thing is I listened. So I think that's something that we can all recognize in our mediumship, that sometimes we get these signs, we get these callings, and we kind of push them aside and ignore them and what have you. So that calling, if you like, led me to England, and that's what led me into my understanding I'm a medium and into the mediumship development. So it all started when I went for a reading with a medium, and I got some outstanding evidence from the spirit world. There was absolutely no way she could have known it by looking at me, and I left there thinking, God, I want to know how that works. So I didn't really act on it, and I kept getting this overwhelming feeling that I had to go back and see her. So I did, and it wasn't as good the second time, but then it became evident why, because I didn't even know why I was there. And she ended up saying in the reading, "You're not here to hear from the spirit world." And I didn't think, I just said, I don't even know why I'm here. I just want to know how it works. So that led me into going to her workshops, which were at a well-known studio and place where there were a lot of mediums, really excellent mediums teaching. So right from the start, I now can see I was spoiled, because I just landed at a place where there was excellent teachers, and I started out going to the workshops, and I just really did it for me. I had no intention of being in the public eye with it. It was just my soul, feeding my soul, understanding more about myself, and I learned a lot. It wasn't just about mediumship, and along that journey of the mediumship and just going, I just kind of got a bug, if you like. So it was like, oh my goodness, there's that course and there's that course, and in amongst it there was this thing called trance. So I didn't really know what it was. I had a trance reading. It was a bit weird. but then once you understand what it is and how it works, and I just got this sort of pull, like I had with the voice telling me to move to England, and there was this pull, so I knew I had to do it. If I didn't do it, I kind of felt like it would be wrong if I didn't. So I kind of get these feelings from inside that are really overwhelming, and I know I have to listen. And I started getting that pull kind of feeling that I needed to explore trance, or that I should. So I was going to regular development groups for mediumship, for evidential mediumship and psychism. But then I started going to the trance ones. And in the end, I sort of put the evidential mediumship to one side and spent a number of years focusing just on trance. So that was like a regular thing. It was in person. There was a core group of us that must have done every sort of 10-week cycle, as they were run then, 4 times a year. So we get together, we had this core of us, and then there'd be other ones that would come and go, but there was this wonderful energy that built up. And through those courses, or through those sort of development groups that we did, we really, we had discipline, we had focus, we were strengthening our ability. The personalities of our spirit teams were coming through. I like to call them a spirit team. And so the personalities were coming through, and the way in which they were working with us was starting to come through. And it just seemed magical somehow. And I've kind of got something coming into my mind, that one of the most amazing things was the tutor that we had would get us all into trance, and the guides would have conversations together. And it was a really unusual thing, but it was something that built up over time, and we had this discipline instilled in us, you know, sort of to the point of, you've got to take off your jewelry and don't eat smelly foods, and you know, all these kinds of things, which I think they're right in some ways, but it got us focused, it got us there doing these things. And it was really the philosophy that was coming through for me the most. But along that journey with the trance aspect, there started to be the evidential communication coming through. So sometimes you would have the guide and they would pass on the information, or you would sometimes have the energy of the actual loved one then come through and start to speak. So it was a more direct communication between the spirit world and the recipient. And it's quite an interesting feeling to experience, because you start to become more aware of energy and the shifts of energy. And obviously your audience is quite interested in trance and experiments with trance, so they'd understand that. And I think we all have different abilities, so, or different aptitudes within the trance arena, shall we say. So it looked for me, really, a lot of it was focused on the philosophy, but then there was also this evidential side that was coming in. And we did that, we were so dedicated for a number of years. And then I think, you know, you get feelings, or you just feel like you need to be off doing something else. So after a period of time, I think it was about 4 years, maybe 5, of developing the trance mediumship, I went back and I felt like pulled back into evidential mediumship and developing that aspect again. So I've probably gone completely off track to the question you asked.
Because what I want also to do is, a lot of people don't have the opportunity. They're very interested. They haven't attended any demonstrations. you know, especially here in the US, where you're not always, you know, you don't have like churches everywhere doing this, like, you know, all the time. But I want to give the members and the audience an idea of how it feels to be there. And even in a circle sitting, so by you telling me that, you know, somebody's having you all go into a trance and the guides are all talking, having conversations with each other. I mean, that's like, wow, right there. So
Yeah.
be like, oh my gosh. But I love how you're, it's real, because a lot of people tell me that they get really involved into the regular mental mediumship, and then they start going to trance and they stay there for a while, and then they go back. And I do believe this, just like you said, there's different areas people will have their, I don't know, they're being guided to in trance, you know, with you, with the philosophy, the speaking. But I love it. I love it. So yeah, you're totally on it. But I do want to ask you, I know you have been, you were developing with that for 4 to 5 years. Did you meet weekly? Did you meet monthly? How did that happen?
Yes, so we met weekly every Wednesday evening for 2 hours. And as I say, it kind of got like there was a core of us. We were kind of like a family. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but in a way, it was almost like we knew our spirit team and their spirit team members as much as each other. And so it was kind of like a family in a way. And even though there were others that would come for 10 weeks or 2 batches of 10 weeks, because what would happen is it was weekly for 10 weeks and then there'd be a 2 or 3 week break, and then it would be weekly for 10 weeks again. So it was in these kind of cycles, and it worked out quite well actually, because it meant that you had a little break, and it might have been when there were school holidays and some people had children, and you know, so it was kind of good that it had this rhythm, because you'd be really focused and dedicated for that 10-week period. You'd have a little break and then you'd be like, I can't wait to go back. So you'd go back again. So it was weekly, 10-week batches, and over a number of years. But we also, after doing it for a period of time, and you start to get familiar with the feeling, you start to get familiar with the feeling of your spirit team and what they feel like coming close to you, I would then do some things on my own at home. And there's different philosophies about that. So a lot of people will sort of say, well, you shouldn't do it, or if you do it, what's the point of doing it? And I can see all sides of the arguments. I think that if you're doing it to be familiar with your spirit team and to build up that rapport, that's one thing. If you're doing it to go into trance and talk, well, yeah, kind of what's the point unless you're recording it? It's absolutely profound and you're going to put it out there. So, you know, I think there's arguments for and against, but I do think you need really solid training before you do anything like that on your own, or in smaller groups, shall we say. That's my philosophy. And because I think that at the end of the day, we're going into an altered state, and we've got to accept that we're, you know, it's a chemical restructure. We're altering our brain waves. We're going into an altered state of consciousness. And the deeper we go, the more altered it is. And we need to be, you know, mindful of ourselves and take care of ourselves and have a balance in life as well. So there's all of that we need to accept. So yes, I did do some things on my own after I had a good foundation. And then sometimes we'd get together as well outside of that development group, and we'd maybe do some trance things together, or, you know, just 2 or 3 of us. So it just, you know, I think I kind of went with the flow and what felt right at the time, rather than having like a definitive structure, shall we say. But certainly that 10-week group over the course of a number of years was a structure, but it was, I think it was empowering, like some of those experiences under that supervision, with when you get to that point where the controls are at a point of control where there's this flow, and it's none of them spoke over the top of each other. One would talk, another would talk, each one knew when it was their turn, shall we say, and there would be a theme that would run through that. Sometimes there'd be a conversation that would happen, a back and forth conversation. So even though you're in the trance state, look, to me, it feels like I'm to the side and I'm listening. So I'm not giving the words, I'm listening to what's being said. So there's a part of you that's there. There's a part of you that's observing, but not interfering, if you like. So that was all quite an amazing experience, and I wouldn't change that for the world, really.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, first, I love how you brought up about your group and the circle members, the harmony. I mean, a lot of people start circles and there's no harmony and it just doesn't go anywhere. So I can understand how all this opened up and happened for your group, because the beautiful harmony was there. I do want to ask you, first, let me tell you right now, you're a great teacher. I could sit here, forget all my questions, because I'm just sitting here listening, because I'm like, oh my God, I'm supposed to ask you questions. Yeah, it's great. What I want to ask you is, do you remember how you felt when, and this is actually from Nikki, it's actually would be one of my questions, but do you recall the first time you spoke and how it felt? And the second question should be the first question, actually, would be, how long did it take before you started speaking?
Okay. So I think once I committed myself to going to, I think I did a trance workshop, and then I committed to doing this trance development group, because I wanted to kind of dip my toe in the water and see what it was like and feel the energy of it. So if I'm remembering correctly, I did a workshop first, and I can't remember if I actually spoke or not on that first actual workshop, but my very first experience of the spirit world kind of coming in was probably the very first workshop I ever did with this lady medium I went to for a reading. And she got us to do this thing in the afternoon, which was like transfiguration. And she kind of talked us into a state of being, shall I say, just to relax and get ourselves out the way and what have you. And I could hear people saying, oh yeah, I can see a man there, and I can see a beard, and I can see this. And I just knew they were talking about something to do with me, like the energy of it. And I thought, this is really weird. Like, I know this is something to do with me. I mean, this was like my first ever mediumistic workshop, and there was, boom, there was one of my what ended up being my trance controls. And so he obviously wanted to make himself known straight away. So I suppose that's my very first experience, but there was no speaking in that. But it felt, even though I'm saying it felt weird, it felt comfortable at the same time. And anyway, when I started these trance sessions, trying to go back to the question, at first there's a lot of heart palpitations and things, and I think that's the spirit team and you getting used to each other's energy. You know, there's that blending of energy, and so once you overcome that kind of like pounding heart feeling and it settles down, then you can start to get the words to come. Because I found with that sort of fast heart feeling that it was hard to try and get the words to come out. So I think there was probably one or two words that might have come, and it felt a little strange. I wasn't really sure if it was me or not. And I would say that over a few weeks of regular development, then some words started to come more naturally. And what would happen was I'd just have one word in my mind, or or a topic, you know, and it would just almost go round and round and round, and it wouldn't, the one word or the one topic wouldn't go away unless I opened up and said the word. So I found that that was my signal or way to just, I have to trust, I have to let this come. And once that word follows, there'll be more words that come. And then obviously there's an element of you that's going to be there, but the more you develop, the more you're disciplined, the more you put the effort in, and over a regular space of time. And if you're lucky enough, like you've said, to have a conducive group of people, you come on quite quickly, and there's a lot of trust that builds up, not just in the group, but with yourself and your control. So I'd say it took a few goes for the words to sort of start to have a little bit of a flow or a little bit of a meaning. And the feeling, I guess, goes back to that very, very first occasion, and that was kind of called transfiguration. So it was allowing that blending and allowing like an overshadowing, or, you know, so then the people watching could say what they saw through their clairvoyance or through any overshadowing that was taking place. And I remember it was, excuse my hands, I do talk with my hands, but it was kind of like this feeling in front of the face, and you could feel the energy around you. So when I started that trance development and got over that kind of pounding heart feeling, it settled down into that embrace, if you like, of energy. So it kind of seems to come around you, and so long as you trust it and you've got a good tutor, I think it moves at a comfortable pace. And I want to say a comfortable pace because everybody's going to have their own comfort level as well. So I think that's important, not to push it, really, to let it come.
Have you, before you could start speaking and just the words start flowing, with you, it was just like a word that was just kept going, or a topic or something. How long before you really started just completely talking?
Oh, do you know, I don't even think I could tell you how long that took. I'd say it was probably within a year of that regular weekly development. And I was going to a home circle on Saturdays as well. So I kind of had two regular slots, if you like, where I was giving some time to the development. And it seemed to start to flow within months, but it got deeper by the end of the year, and then deeper again the next year, and deeper again the next. Does that make sense? So I really think that when we start, there's probably, you know, 98% of us involved, and then 95, and it slowly works its way down. And you know, for me, I think I realized when I turned a corner, and it was probably into the second year really of when it was just flowing, that I mentioned it before, it's like I feel myself to one side and I'm listening to somebody else's conversation. So that's when I knew a shift had happened between my control and me getting out the way. So at first it might have been this word going round, you let the word come, and then eventually as you're speaking, there's more of them coming in, more of your trance control coming in, and you sort of move a little bit out the way. And I guess I can recall different occasions where perhaps something might have been said by the control, and I'd almost think, well, I don't believe that, or I don't think that. So I think that's when you realize that you're moving out the way, and that's that shift of consciousness, and that's that awareness and everything all moving and shifting. So I think, you know, I don't think it happens overnight. I think it takes some time. But then I accept that for some people it might happen quicker than others, and it also depends on your dedication and the time and effort you put into it, the teaching you have. You know, there's lots of aspects to it. So when it moved and it shifted into giving evidential mediumship in the trance state, I think I needed to be at that state where I knew I was out the way. So what would happen is the better I got at doing my trance, I could go in quicker and come out quicker, but I kind of am mindful I'm moving through states of consciousness. So I want to be kind to myself in that coming back, that once you get to that deeper state, if you like. So, but it became, once you've got that discipline, once you've got that element of control, once you've got that rapport between you and your spirit team member, then they can come in a lot quicker, and you can literally take 1 or 2 deep breaths, and you know, it's not long until they're rising up, as it were, to bring through what they want to say.
Now, your control, do you have more than one? Is it just one, or?
Yeah, so I have two. I had 2 that I was aware of, and that I'm still aware of mostly for working in the trance state, and they're both male, and one of them likes to bring a beard. So I'm really unhappy about that, I have to say, because a lot of people say, oh, I can see a beard, and I'm thinking, no, please no. So I know that sounds like strange, but there it is. But also I can see that there's 2 different personalities between the 2 controls, and they both have a good sense of humor, but one is a bit dry in their sense of humor, which resonates with me quite a lot, and the other one is a bit cheekier, I would say. And I did spend a lot of time wanting to know more about their personality and where they're from and their name and all these kinds of things. And that seemed like the most important thing when you're starting and when you're working in the trance state, and when you're getting that confirmation that people see through their clairvoyance or their experiences when you're in the trance state, and they talk about the energy, or they can see in their clairvoyance what they look like, how they sound. So to me, I'm not aware of my voice changing, but I think there's a change, but it's not necessarily a massive fundamental change. So people do talk about, oh, the voice is different, obviously the way they speak, what they speak about. And so between the 2 of them, and I can feel the shift when one moves in and the other one moves out, if you like. So sometimes one will turn up, sometimes it'll be one and then the other one will come in and then the other one will come back. But there's no, I know some mediums have one that's like the orchestra, if you like, the one that kind of comes in, talks, brings in another one, and then comes back again. So they, you know, some people sort of seem to have this main one that, and then other ones. But to me, my 2, I don't know which one's going to turn up, and it might be one that kind of has more say than the other, and the other one will pop in, or just one, or both. It varies. So I kind of let them do. I trust they know what they want to do and what needs to be said.
Oh yeah. How long does it take you now to get into that state where you can speak?
I would say that because I've focused on evidential mediumship, speaking mediumship in the philosophy state, and in like addresses and things, I would say it takes me a little longer now because I've put my energy into other things. But if I go, okay, I know, I trust, then it still only takes that few, minute or so for them to blend, and then that minute or so for me to just go, okay, yes, I trust, and then we're off again. So it's a matter of moments, minutes, but I think that you have to spend the time working with it regularly for it to have your trust there and know that it's all going to work.
So I know you're passionate with philosophy and
Yes.
speaking mediumship. Let's talk about that. Why is that important?
Well, I think that a number of reasons. It was really through the trance state that I developed that passion for speaking and for philosophy. And I just want to remind everyone that really when I started, I had absolutely no intention of working publicly, of giving private readings, of teaching. It was when I started, it was all about just feeding my soul, understanding who I was. Oh, I've got these abilities. Oh, that's what it is. And so it was years of development really, and just focusing on that. And it took me a long time to even say I was a medium, even though every week, several times a week, I was practicing, if you like. So the speaking mediumship for me, I think the love of it came out through doing the trance. And I think that when I started to work in the churches, because I really was sort of pushed into doing church services because I had no intention of going public. And so I think it helped me to be able to do the address and to do the philosophy. So I would just kind of say, okay, well, I'm just going to hand over to the spirit world because I don't really know what I'm doing, kind of a thing, because no one teaches you how to do a church service or how to do the address in a church service, except the SNU, which I later found out. I didn't know at that time. And so I found that when I would do the philosophy and the address, these words would come, and people would come up to me afterwards, and they may not have got an evidential message, but they would say, oh, I just want to say I really enjoyed tonight and I really resonated with the message in the address. And, and that's, the more that happened, the more I realized that, of course, the evidential side is an important aspect of spiritualism and mediumship, but the philosophy is a message for everybody that's there, not just one or two people who get that evidence. So the spirit world then started to help me and work with me on doing that part of the service. And that's where the passion came. So there I was kind of thrust out there into doing these services and things. So I'd already had the training of doing evidential mediumship, and I knew I could stand up and give contact. But if I hadn't have had that trance development, I don't think I could have done the addresses. And that's where that passion really stemmed from.
Wow.
So then I guess it went on to where the spirit, as I started to mention, the spirit world started to teach me and started to help me to work with inspiring people and giving these messages within the addresses and things. So then I discovered the SNU. I joined up, and then I discovered, you could do your accreditation, you could do your awards. So I kind of felt a little bit led by the spirit world into, okay, now you're ready to start taking this more seriously. because at first I wasn't going to even go public. Then when I started doing the churches, people started asking for readings, and it sort of slowly snowballs from there. So that's where it went. And then in my training and in my study with the SNU, I found that the more I learned about spiritualism, the more I discovered that really spiritualism started with philosophy. And it wasn't really until the Hydesville wrappings it went physical, then it went into the evidential. So, you know, I felt kind of connected. I felt connected to something much bigger than myself. And it wasn't just with the spirit world, it was also with this thing called spiritualism and how that message can help people. And then I found that in my private readings, I would start to go into a type of philosophy, if you like the spirit world would start giving me information that I needed to tell that person. And it was a form of empowerment. It was a form of helping. So it's not just giving the evidence from the spirit world, but also giving a form of empowerment, because, you know, a lot of people when they go for readings, whether they be trance readings or whether they be evidential or psychic, a lot of people are looking for some answers. You know, how do I fit into this world? You know, it's how I started. Where do I belong? How do I fit in? So I really find speaking mediumship takes on different guises. It's not just the philosophy in a service. It's not just trance and trance philosophy. It's a way of bringing a message that touches the soul of someone, whether that be in a one-to-one reading or whether that be in a congregation or audience. And that's why I have a passion for it, or part of the reason why I have a passion for it.
Well, I think it's amazing when you're doing, you know, your church and somebody comes back to you afterwards and they get that message, and
Yeah.
to be inspired to hit as many people as you can with a message. You know, I kind of feel like when people come together, there's quite a few people that are having the same issue or having the same, and the message comes that way. Okay, first I'm going to tell you right now, I'm looking at my questions and I'm like, oh my God, she already did that one. She did that one. I'm not really asking you anything. You are a great teacher. I mean, I could sit here and have a great conversation. Actually, I'm just listening pretty much. But I do want to ask you one other question really quick. I want to make sure, and I just want to make sure I get past all the member questions really quick. David asked again, if you could give your younger self advice about trance mediumship, what would it be?
Patience.
That's a good one. That is.
Absolutely patience. I think when you start to get that, once you've got that feeling of that blending and the energy, and it's kind of, please take this the right way, it's kind of addictive. You know, it's a feeling of love. It's an embrace. It's a powerful kind of a feeling as well. You know, because you're connected to something much bigger than your physical self. And I think in the earlier years and in the beginning stages, you're so keen, like, what's next? What's next? I want to be there, or they're doing that, and I'd like to do that. So I think slowing it down and really enjoying, actually, aside from patience, I'd say enjoy the journey, because I think sometimes you're in so much of a hurry to move yourself forward and to be better and to develop yourself that you might miss out on some of the joy of it and the experience of it. It's like me telling you about how amazing it was to sort of sit in a circle with sort of 7-8 people all in trance, and all the controls are having a conversation or speaking one after the other, and you know, the energy and the power of that is an amazing thing. And I kind of want to go back there now, you know, just talking about it, because it was kind of magical in a way. So I'd say, aside from patience, like enjoy the journey, and take your time with it, because before you know it, you'll kind of get to a point where you want to move on to something else, or your spiritual journey or your physical life journey may take you in another direction that you didn't see coming. And so make the most of it, for sure.
Great advice. I was thinking about another question. When you talked about in your circle and everybody's going into trance and the guides are all communicating together, some people have said that in a circle you should only have one person sitting at once, and everybody else supports that person. But if you're all going into trance and having, so really you can all sit at the same time and go into a trance and it'll be okay.
Right, but I would say we had someone there that was keeping control, if you like, of the whole situation, and making sure that, so we had a tutor that was holding that space for us, if you like. So, you know, he only allowed us to do that when we reached a certain level. It wasn't like we got thrown in the deep end early days. We'd been at it for a couple of years by then. And like I said, we had that core group. So he knew us very well. He knew our controls. He knew our ability in the trance state. So I'd say, yes, it's possible, but there was still someone there who was holding that space and keeping like control, if you like, and making sure that, you know, if anybody needed to come out of that state, you know, they could. So, but, you know, we were harmonized, and we all worked well together. And that's really key for it as well. So I'd say yes, absolutely. But it depends on your level of ability. It depends on the trust in the group. It depends on a few things.
I'm really glad you clarified that, because I would get all kinds of people with messages saying, we're going to try this, we're going to do it early.
Yeah, no, settle down. Whoa, what did I say? Patience.
Oh my goodness. You talked about earlier on how you went to a trance medium and got a reading.
Mm-hmm.
I said it was kind of weird or something like that, because it was a first time. Can you explain how that went? I mean, when you first went in, how that went for you?
Well, you got to remember, it was at the very beginning of my exploration of mediumship, full stop. And I kept hearing about this thing called trance. So you got to remember, it was at the beginning of my journey, probably a few months into it, maybe 6 months or something, maybe a year. And so I didn't know what to expect. And I'd done a workshop which was about the trance state and so forth. But as I recall, I don't think we actually went into trance. We might have blended, we might have done exercises to attune to the spirit world, but I don't think we really did any talking or anything. Because, you know, whoever's teaching has to go with the dynamic of the group, don't they? So I don't recall that. So on the back of doing that workshop, I booked a trance reading. So I had no idea really what to expect. I didn't fully comprehend what trance was. So it was weird in the sense that somebody is, you know, a person you've spoken to is going into this altered state, and then this other personality comes forward and starts talking to you, and talking to you on another level, and talking to you on a, I think they gave some evidential mediumship, and they talked a bit about me and my spiritual journey. So it was kind of like a spiritual assessment. So you've got this person that you know as that person going into this other state, and so it was just kind of, I didn't know what to expect. That's why it was sort of felt a bit weird, and you're having a conversation with someone who isn't that personality anymore. But it was also good. So I don't want to put anybody off or anything, because obviously I went on to develop the trance mediumship. So
no, I think I ask this is because not everybody has been able to have that opportunity yet, just to
Right.
sit there. And so now, with your experience, and anything I ask, I have to look at it as somebody new coming in that has no idea what trance mediumship is. And so now that you're completely experienced and know everything, are there signs?
I don't know everything. No one can know everything.
A lot of things. So when you go and observe a trance dem or a reading, are there signs now that you can see visually with somebody that you know that they're in that state?
Yeah, so I'm more sensitive to energy and seeing and feeling the energy. So when I'm observing in a classroom state or whatever that may be, I would be quite in tune with and sensitive to the energy and how it feels, what it looks like around the person. So I tend to, because I'm mostly clairsentient anyway, I'm going to feel the energy of the room, I'm going to feel the energy and the energy with the person going into the trance state or the control. So, and sometimes, at the college we give spiritual assessments, and there are times when I might be working with someone and then I might be aware of one of their team, spirit team members. So it's just the energy of that and working with that. So that's where I come from mostly. And so maybe for some of your audience, they may want to use their clairsentience or their clairvoyance, depending on which one's the most dominant, or a bit of both, to sense the energy, because that's really one of the telling signs. It's not so much about what face is being made or, what the voice sounds like. It's more about the energy for me, seeing and feeling the energy.
You see, that's what I wanted, people to understand. If they were to ever attend one, to be open and to feel everything or see or however they're going to get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also the quality, sorry to interrupt, but I think it's also the quality of the information that comes through, because, when you've got a good blending with the spirit world will flow, the information will flow, and it will be of an intelligence. It won't be, oh, and you should pay more attention to nature and you should do this and you should do that. That's more coming from perhaps the person's mind. There might be a blending there, but it's not a deep one. So I would say that you would also be listening to the quality of the information as well. That's another thing.
Well, great, that's awesome. I want to talk about the development in the beginning, like the blending, and is sitting in the power, is that important?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, to be honest with you, I think meditation's important as well as sitting in the power or attuning to the spirit world. So for me, meditation's really important for mediums, because we need to get our conscious mind out the way. So we need that left brain that likes to be in control, likes to talk all day long, likes to be in charge. We need that out of the way. So, and especially with trance mediumship. So I think the discipline of meditation is probably as important and more important in the beginning stages, because you need the discipline of mastering your mind. So I've written some blogs about that, and a lot of tutors will have done CDs and things so out there, and all talk about probably a similar thing. So, but for me, mastering the mind and doing meditation's key at the beginning, because if you can't get your left brain conscious thoughts out of the way, then the spirit world is going to have a real battle to try and overcome that logical mind. And so, if you like, you're wanting to kind of put to sleep, not quite, but certainly subdue that side of your brain, and you want to increase the activity on the right side of the brain, which then allows the spirit world to come close and blend and so on and so forth. So first get that mastering the mind sorted, and then, you know, attune to the spirit world. So become aware of your own energy, your own power within. And once you understand your own energy that's within and around you, then you can start to attune to what's outside of you. What is the spirit world? What's that universal consciousness or God force, you know? So, and you know, there are people that do healing and trance healing, so they need to be completely out the way, because the idea is they need to be consciously asleep, shall we say, you know, they need to be completely out of the way to allow that attunement to the spirit world and allow that energy to flow, because of course the energy is going into healing energy, not speaking energy. So I hope that kind of makes sense for you and the audience.
I love this conversation because I'm serious. I have like tons of questions and I'm like, she's done them all. She's done them all, answered them all. Okay, so you gave advice to your younger self.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any additional advice that you could give to somebody new coming in, or even somebody that's been there for a while developing?
Okay, I would say ask a lot of questions, go to different mediums, go to different courses, find a tutor that works for you, find other people that you harmonize with, you know, be your own kind of investigator, if you like. So, and don't just accept anything. You know, I think it's important that you question all the time, because there's me talking about putting that, you know, left brain logical mind to one side. I'm actually a really logical person. And so even though I would, when I was in my development phase, I would surrender myself, or I learned to surrender myself to the experience. Afterwards, I would then kind of logicize it and analyze it, and not to the point to pick it apart, but to be able to understand what's going on. I didn't just accept everything. You know, if I was taught something, did it resonate with me? Does it make sense? And anything I didn't understand, I would kind of put up on a shelf. And, you know, as I went along my spiritual journey, perhaps something resonated, it will come back off the shelf and I go, oh, I get it now, you know. So I think to not just completely dismiss things as well is important. Just anything you don't understand, put it to one side. It'll come around again when it's relevant.
Thank you. I think that's great advice. Absolutely great advice. Okay, so I want to talk about the how members can connect with you again, and the classes and things that you're offering. So you can connect. Remember, Penny's website is currently being updated, but it is pennyhayward.co.uk. You can find her blog posts, and she's done some with the trance. So you can find that on her professional Facebook page, which is Penny Hayward Medium, as well as her website. You can see that there too. Let's see what else. And so, Penny, can you go ahead and talk about some of the things that you're doing that are coming up for your?
Sure. So I'm doing a little trance workshop in the UK. So I don't know where your audience is. I'm assuming your audience is all over the world.
All over.
Absolutely. So yeah, I've got a little trance workshop coming up in April, and that's around Peterborough kind of area, a bit sort of north of there. And then I've got a couple of trance courses, which are actually Martin Coldcloth's courses, and they're at the college. So you can either look up Martin's profile, so on the AFC website, that you just look up a tutor name. So you can look up his name or you can look up my name and see what those courses are, when they are. And obviously the college draws people from all over the world, so we'd love to see you there. And I'm also going to be in Australia in September. It's a place, it's run by States of Grace. So you can look up their website, or I think the link might be provided, and that will have some trance and physical involved as well. So if there's anyone listening from Australia, you might want to check that out for later this year. And there's a whole bunch of tutors going. It's not just me, obviously, and I'm just one of the guest tutors, so that should be quite good. So they're the ones that are focused on trance, and I'm always sort of putting on some one-day workshops or other things as well. So look out for those too.
Those two. Plus, she also does one-on-one mentorships.
Yeah.
And to reach you to do this where? Through the...
Yeah, they can reach me through my website. There's a contact email, or through Messenger on Facebook, or on my email, which is medium@pennyhayward.co.uk.
Oh my God. Penny, Nikki was absolutely right, okay? I'm so grateful to Nikki for putting me in touch with you, but she told me, Kathy, you may not have much chance to ask a bunch of questions because it's going to flow beautifully. And it absolutely did. I don't have very many interviews like this, and so it's wonderful because sometimes it's nice just to listen and maybe throw a question here and there, but you've covered everything, and I am so grateful to you for sharing the beautiful work that you do, and you have helped me help others, and I appreciate that so very much.
Oh, thank you, and thanks for having me as well. And I wouldn't mind asking if anyone that listens, if they've got a passion for speaking mediumship or wanting to learn about it, or if I kind of wouldn't mind like having a little survey or something, you know, if I ran a course on speaking mediumship, which I meant to mention, I've got one at the Barbanel Centre later this year in Transmit for Speaking Mediumship. I forgot that one. But yeah, if people are interested in that aspect, I'd be really curious, because I know I found it really hard when I was developing, looking for that kind of teaching. And I'd like to know if there's others out there that are looking for that. So let me know.
And actually, I'll be honest with you, I think this is one of the first ones where this is the main theme about it. And so this is great. It's come at the perfect time. I'm sure there'll be others coming in asking more about it, and I will direct them all to you on this one.
Oh,
so,
thank you.
Well, thank you again, Penny. It's Penny Hayward, Medium. You know, all the links will be underneath the interview, within the group as well, and on the YouTube channel. So if you have any questions, definitely put them under the interview, and we'll definitely get to them. Again, Penny, have a great day. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And everybody, have a great day. All right, thank you guys.